Okay, this is the November 10th Transportation Committee meeting. I appreciate you guys all coming out. For the record, please state our names around the table here.
Carol Blades.
Dane Oaks O'Neill.
Lauren Small.
Kathy Haynes.
And there are several members of the public and one member of the administration here as well. So on tonight's agenda, we'll get started by talking about the two RFP submissions that we received and how we want to move forward with that. So, Lauren, do you want to summarize what transpired for us?
On the day of submission, two RFPs were received, or responses to RFPs were received. One from the joint submission from New Roads and Klein, and a second from First Student. In the midst of everything else, I have been slowly working through them, just trying to make sure that the content is similar, equal if you will. I'm not done yet, and I'll probably coming forward with a series of questions. In an RFP situation, it isn't like a bid where it's cut and dried. There is the ability to flex a little if necessary. So as I work through it and I compare the submittals, obviously there was a page of submittal that's numbers against numbers, but then I'm working through them page by page to see anything that may have been done differently. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, Lauren, did I believe that for Klein and Rhodes, I believe that we received a proposal that one of which includes fuel and one does not. Is that correct? I think one of you told me that.
Yes.
So, yeah, there is. That's part of my comparison data here. There were two different in their case. But
Oh,
what
okay.
I'm in the process of doing actually is putting a spreadsheet together that summarizes both of them,
Okay.
so that I'm not looking here, looking there, looking here, looking there.
Right. Right.
And I'm not done yet.
Okay. Having said that, I don't know if any of you other than Lauren have had the opportunity to review them. Assuming that they're apples to apples, which obviously you have not completely concluded at this point.
Correct.
Lauren. It seems like the starting points are fairly far apart, right? Would you?
Upon cursory review, I would agree.
So, and do we, based on the conversation that we had at the last transportation meeting when Mr. Harris was here, the only things that we know of that it now sounds like we want included in the RFP, but we didn't originally ask for, is the GPS,
That's the big item.
right? Is that?
Because he brought that forward, obviously, after we submitted it, but that's part of the negotiable concept of an RFP versus a bid. So that's one thing that's will be in my spreadsheet to determine. We're going to have meetings to sit down and,
Right.
aside from just our transportation committee meeting, and sit down with the parties and say, okay, if we want this, what then?
Right.
That's
Is that, but to your recollection, that's the only thing the only major item that,
I believe that's the biggest item, and then internally, we've got to make the decision on who's going to manage the routing, and so to get the total cost of everything.
right. Can you guys think of anything else that came up last week that was new, that you hadn't known originally? Was there anything else that Mr. Harris mentioned last week that wasn't included in the RFP to your recollection?
No, I think that GPS was the only thing. That's the biggest item.
I think so too. I mean, like I said, I've been trying to keep track of that sort of thing, and that's the only thing that I can think of that is material that wasn't included. And as Lauren said, the ultimate, how the transportation coordinator thing is now a little more in flux than it was, I think, originally too. Where that role is going to end up, we need to iron out those details as well.
And I will be sending out an email next week with some questions to make sure I'm understanding what you said in a couple of places there to both of you. I'll probably just have you come in for a cup of coffee and we'll talk about it. But I just, as you may have read in the paper, but they voted on a contract last night, so that's behind me. So now I'm focusing on this.
So as far as timetable goes, Lauren, because we're clearly not ready to make any definitive, rulings or recommendations at this point.
Well, I think the key next week and the week after, I'm going to be meeting with the parties and getting my questions answered, and then I'll communicate out to the committee what I have, and we may have to have a short meeting, or, let's see, we got a compressed deal here. We've got Cal this week,
Right.
voting
Cal
meeting the
Monday.
next week,
We have a meeting
deer
on the
season.
29th.
We have a meeting, we do have a meeting, I have a
Deer season.
placeholder for a meeting scheduled for November 29th.
That's Thursday or Tuesday that week?
Tuesday.
That's Tuesday, the day after?
That's-
the day we come back.
That's the day
Day we
that's the
come
day
back.
school's back in
Tuesday.
session after the
Tuesday
Thanksgiving
after
break.
Thanksgiving.
That's also the policy committee meeting date, right?
That's what I emailed you guys out earlier.
I didn't get my email today.
Oh, that's fine. It's, we discussed that he had already had a meeting and you weren't totally decided yet, so
Okay,
I
so,
sent that email back to Mr. Wolf as well.
So you want policy on the 29th as well?
well, I could just change the time.
That's what I'm saying, we'll schedule the
We'll
time. 'cause
schedule it,
we
sure,
shouldn't,
it's not a
we
big
shouldn't
deal.
need more than 30 minutes, 45 minutes for transportation if that's what, you need an hour. We can,
Get them both on the same day.
Yeah.
Okay.
let's do
because
that.
we all know, once we get to the 1st of December, it flies by.
Yeah.
Right, and
Yeah,
I would
I'd
like,
to get mine in too.
I mean, I would like to figure out, I would like to have a recommendation to take to the, do we need to get a recommendation as early as December, do you think?
It would be ideal. I think the bigger thing, I mean, in fairness to the contractors, we need to get this wrapped
Yeah,
up.
that's how I feel too.
That's-
I
that's
feel like
right.
you guys have waited long enough
We,
and,
we said in the spring we were going to have it done by September.
exactly.
So I
Okay,
think it's workable. It would be the early part of January when we're into a bond refinance.
Right.
At the latest.
right.
So
Okay, so to the,
our goal will be December.
to the extent that you schedule meetings with the contractors, do me a favor and
Oh, I'll copy the
invite
committee.
me and
Oh,
I'll,
no.
to the extent that it fits my schedule, which is pretty flexible, I will do my best
No,
to be there.
no.
If I don't have something pressing,
I'm-
I will be there.
Definitely. I'll keep the committee in the loop.
Okay, and is the intention to have Jim involved in those discussions since?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
He kind of jumped in with some new ideas.
Right, so.
We need answers from him on.
So it'll be us and Jim, any committee members who can make it, you guys and Jim
Yep.
would be the representatives?
Yep.
Okay, and then, of course, you and whoever you guys want to include, but,
For that meeting on the 29th, is that something that you would need us to be at?
It would be a regular transportation committee meeting, and we'll see how we can accomplish in the meantime.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to be out of town at that time, but it's
Okay.
not essential that I'm here.
Where's your hunting camp?
No deer hunting.
I'm just curious.
yeah, I mean, hopefully, like I said, hopefully at that meeting, we'll get a recommendation from the committee to take to the board in December, but based on the conversations that we have between now and then, we'll probably have a pretty good idea what that recommendation is going to be. So I think you'll have a pretty good idea where things stand, Wayne, whether you're here or not. Okay? Okay, well, Lauren, I appreciate you reviewing the RFPs, which, as you guys can see, they're not trivial.
I think they know.
I know, well, you did the one, and obviously, it's a pretty, there's a lot of stuff to go through, so to the extent that you need me to assist you with that, let me know, I'll do what I can in reviewing as well. Do you guys have any questions about where we stand with that, or what the timeline looks like?
I thought you were going to make a recommendation tonight, but
I can see that's not,
We didn't make it.
Yeah, unfortunately, based on the other stuff that's going on, we just haven't had time to get through the RFP. And like I said, there's a lot of things to compare line by line, right? You know, like Lauren said, to make sure that we're doing an apples to apples comparison. So, yeah, I apologize for that. Like I said, we'll find a way to be sure that by the 29th we have a recommendation so that in December the board can make a determination, we can move forward definitively. But like I said, in the meantime, based on the conversations between us and them, I think you guys will have a pretty good idea where things stand anyway. That's how I expect this to play out. So.
I have a question about the timeline, Mr. Small. So if we have a recommendation from you on the 29th, and we approve it in committee, we could go to the CAL on the 5th, December 5th. Would you need it voted on the 5th at the CAL, like a special voting meeting, or can it wait then until the 19th for the actual vote?
That'll be a decision for Mr. Wolf, what he wants voted on the 5th.
How do you feel? You feel the urgency for a vote on the 5th?
I think if we announce on the 5th that we're going to vote on the 19th and be done.
That would be sufficient?
Okay. Any other questions about the RFP timeline or status at this point? Okay. As far as the routing software goes,
I haven't had any real feedback from anyone since the last presentation.
okay.
I have all the proposals here. If anybody needs additional copies, needs to look at it. Just
Is there any kind of side-by-side done on that?
I haven't done a side-by-side. That is tough because they're all over the wall. But I can attempt it.
I saw a little bit of a pattern starting to develop when I really drilled down on them, like training, there were
Right.
some similars there, even though they were spread out all through the different proposals.
Yeah. I think my feeling at this point with regard to the software is that, and I think that Mike's feedback at the last transportation meeting, right, suggests that there is no perfect software or right software package, right? It's more a function of making sure that you're using what you have correctly, knowing what it can do and what it can't do, that one button optimization isn't ever really going to be realistic because of the specific geography, hazards, issues that exist here that don't exist elsewhere, right? So I think he's convinced me that while the software is important and it certainly can help with some things, and certainly some software does some things easier than others, the human component is more important than the software component. And I, at this point, am inclined to go with TransFinder, particularly if we can ensure that Mike is our contact with TransFinder, because I feel like based on what he said and the way that he presented the material, which I thought was very balanced, right? I think he went out of his way not to hard sell TransFinder and instead tried to explain to us what he thought software could do and couldn't do. I feel like based on his presentation and his knowledge, having him at our disposal would actually be of great value to the district. I don't know how, Carol, how you feel, or Lauren, or the rest of you who are here to hear his presentation.
I've talked to a lot of bus companies that I'm familiar with that are using TransFinder, and they all have good things to say about it.
That's good to hear.
I happen to be president of Berks County Pupil Transportation Association, which is a conglomeration of the people in management that have bus companies in Berks County. And I took kind of an informal poll at our last meeting of what everybody uses. TransFinder is the most popular in Berks County at this time, and the most recent convert to it is Wilson School District. And they did it from the Conrad Weiser had suggested to them that they buy it, and they're very, very happy with it. They actually have a brand-new transportation director, and they said that the training was very helpful to her. So I don't know if that helps you guys at all, but they were very happy with it.
Okay, okay.
Did the business office have an opinion?
All things considered, part of the reason that I hung tough to get TransFinder in here for their formal presentation was I was hearing similar things from various places, and I was glad I brought him in because I felt that, and I think, anybody can throw a map up and say, yeah, we're the biggest, but I think they're not only in the most districts, but they do have a good track record. And our former assistant business manager, his district just switched to them. So,
And you said that you spoke to the gentleman at the IU as
Yes.
well, and said that in their admittedly limited experience, because they just contracted with TransFinder, but they also think that the customer support and whatnot has been
yeah,
good,
well,
right?
they apparently been using them for
Oh, right, for
fleet
the
management,
special.
I believe, prior.
I was just going to mention that exactly what you said. They're not really using it the way that we would be using it. I mean, they're using it for
They have a
their-
different,
Right, for their
program.
reporting and their fleet management, whatever. They're not really routing with it, but they enjoy it as well.
but because of the nature of their service with special ed transportation, they need a quick response. And Carl Blessing said that they had had positive experience with them with the fleet management. They looked at a number, but they came back to them because they felt it would provide the best as far as their response capability for their needs, because like you just said, they don't have a normal route scheduling like most districts do. They're in a different type of business, so obviously somebody from TransFinder is going to be in the neighborhood, it sounds like, if people are having issues, or whether it be us or somebody else. Sounds like they
That would be my biggest concern, that we can get the support and training that we need, so I'm disinclined to go against the business office recommendation.
I'll tell them if they want to rent an office upstairs for a regional office, we'll make them a deal. Give me 1 year of software. I'll trade your room and board for the software.
So I don't think we have enough committee members present to actually formally make a recommendation, but can
I think
we,
we do. Enough.
you do think the two's enough? Okay, yeah.
Then I'll move ahead and tell you to forward us
You're fine with that?
and you're for, as far as the contract, it's based on the proposal that he circulated that evening?
Yep,
Okay,
yeah, let's do that,
okay.
and,
Contacting,
because as we heard him say, right, there's a lot to get done, and we also need to know about, getting the staff in to get them trained, and all the, obviously, there's a lot of issues to line up.
Yeah, it did get expensive to have him here on site all day, so if we
Right.
can avoid that, we want to, I'll leave it up to the business office discretion to tailor the training as best, as affordable as possible.
Okay, all right, thank you, everyone, for your feedback. Thank you, Carol. All right, and I just learned today that apparently there are some transportation issues at the high school that they would like to share with us. So Mr. Spores has graciously agreed to come and fill us all in. So Aaron, I'll turn over to you.
A number of things have come up, especially now that I know this is going on. Number one, the bus drivers at best, when a student steps out of their home and they walk towards that bus, the minute they cross those doors and get on that bus, they are Daniel Boone's responsibility. And again, today I've had a number of issues where I request tape, and I'm watching the tape and there's one camera inside the bus, or the camera inside the bus is right above the dash and you can barely see the back of the bus. At best, the bus driver, if they're paying attention to the road and driving the bus like they should be, they are at best a second-hand listener. They could be maybe listening to something that's going on, but if it's silent in what the student's behavior is doing, no one's really going to know what's going on behind them because they're focused on the road. So we gotta have better cameras. We need at least one in the back facing forward and one in the front facing backward, so that when something occurs that we need to investigate, confirm, or, prove to not be accurate, we have it. Along with, I noticed when the cameras come, there are a number of buses that have outside cameras. I could only assume to record, traffic incidents that would happen, which is fine, but we gotta have 2 cameras inside buses, and they have to be mounted so that each can see the other end of the bus. Besides that,
Can I interrupt
yeah,
just to get comment from you guys? What what percentage of the buses actually have more than one camera, or
Well, he's probably talking about my Roscoe cameras mounted on the dashboard or on the windshield. That's probably what he's talking about.
yeah.
We're only required to have, I forget what the
I
number
think our
was.
requirement in the current contract is 3 cameras.
3 cameras.
For each contractor.
Yeah. Now, those were the first cameras that came out that I used. The newer ones that I'm buying have a third, well, they consider that 2 cameras on the front windshield, and there's one more. The new ones have a third one. We mounted about 3 seats back to see back through the bus. But, I mean, if you want to, we're talking $1,400-$1,500 for a setup like you want.
Per bus.
Per bus.
It might be more than that.
I'm not
It might-
saying that
might
what
be
I'm
more than that.
suggesting does not cost money.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying it. But with the
I have
2
a question.
incidents that we're about to get into, it could cost the school and you guys a lot more.
How many buses are used for the high school? Do we know that offhand? If we wanted to just rig up high school buses, just say, what would our bike
Well,
roughly?
Actually, I have, the cameras that I have concentrated more in the middle school buses because we have a lot more
That's where you
discipline
have
issues there.
incidents.
And that, me too, with my new setup on these cameras, I have the third camera in the middle school. I didn't realize we were having that much trouble in the high
I'll
school.
tell you this, I talk with Phil Repko every day, almost, about discipline issues at the middle school. And almost all of our cameras are at the middle school. We have 2 cameras that are on our middle school buses, and it's not that helpful, truthfully. I mean, it's a really tough thing when you have a 40-foot vehicle and you're trying to see what the kid right in the middle of the bus is doing on his cell phone. I mean, it's difficult to do. But I think that you're right, an increase in the amount of cameras that we have would be helpful. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we every year go into the middle school and do a presentation for the students about behavior on the school bus, how to be safe on the bus. Myself and Artie, who is the operations manager for roads. And the kids are shocked at how much we can see when they actually look at the cameras up on the big screen. But that also teaches them how to avoid being seen by the camera, and unfortunately, whether we like it or not, these kids are smarter than us when it comes to technology in a lot of these situations. So I agree, more cameras the better for sure, but I'm not even positive that having 3 or 4 or 6 cameras on a school bus is really going to solve that issue.
Yeah, are the kids, say, seated on the, closest to the window, are they going to be visible?
When the camera's mounted at the center of the front of the bus, I know our Votech buses, I don't know which Votech buses, I get a lot of footage from those. I've definitively found the issues that are coming to me. Whether it be
Votech-
throwing
the
stuff
Votech
out the window, behavior between 2 students. I mean, you can pretty much see everything on those
The
buses.
VOTEC buses, I bid that with the county, and I bid that with those required cameras in there. That's why those cameras are in those buses.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that the cameras are different in those?
Yeah, the brand is REI, and it's a big camera in front. Well, they wanted one, somehow I have one in the back facing front, which I really don't think means a lot. All you see is the back of their heads. I've recently mounted the second camera part way back, to get the second half of the bus.
Okay.
But there again, that was in their bid requirement.
Sure.
And I bid it accordingly.
Yeah, well, and if we decided to have more cameras, and
And
obviously.
that's something in the RFP.
Right, right, you would have, right, I mean, you guys obviously would adjust the cost based on the additional requirements,
And
so,
that could be something that would be good to ask the principals. Where do you want it mounted? I mean, like, I know in our cameras, we have an option of where we actually put the bubble camera, much like they do. We've been mounting them above the driver, looking down the steps, and, facing backwards in the bus.
right, right.
But maybe there's something that would, the principals could tell us, well, it'd be helpful if we could see this or that area.
Yeah, I want to make it clear that I don't think Mr. Sabors is saying that you guys aren't doing what you should be doing. I think he's simply saying, in order for them to accurately address the issues that we are having, he's telling us that we need to ask for more cameras because what he's currently getting is insufficient. So I want to make it clear that he's not saying you guys aren't doing what you should be doing.
I have a question about that too, Mr. Schwartz. I know we have a policy on, and I can't get it up right now, on behavior on the bus and suspensions, but are we vigilant about enforcing the policy so that
Absolutely.
these are
Yeah,
being,
when we get a report from either bus company, we go right to work. The first call I make is to Ron Transportation to get video of the bus, and I
I mean,
usually
if the
just
kid
send.
should be banned from a bus, is he being banned from a
Yeah,
bus?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We actually had an incident just a few days. We banned them when the student was at the location. They weren't allowed to leave that day on the bus. The parent had to go get them.
Right, so we're not putting repeated offenders back on these buses, giving them chance after chance after chance, and just setting ourselves up like this.
I mean, if it's a behavior that warrants a consequence, and then we need to try to change the behavior they're coming back on, but if it's egregious enough that they should not be back on that transportation, they are not back on that transportation.
I'll say that I don't think that's happening too much over at the middle school, just some feedback there. Has anyone been,
Agree wholeheartedly.
I can't remember.
I don't think that we've had a student yet this year that has been banned from the bus from the middle school.
And is that the determination is made by the administration as to what the penalty
My
would be?
understanding is that Phil Repko does the disciplinary
Okay.
more than the general.
And does he, in your experience, does he ask for your input at all, or is he making those determinations independently?
I'd say pretty much independently.
Okay, I mean, and that's,
He's,
Yeah.
administration,
To follow
school
policy.
administration are the only individuals that can administer discipline.
and I understand that, but they certainly would be allowed to ask, I mean, to solicit feedback if they thought it would be valuable. So
The question is,
I'm just wondering whether,
what he's saying is, if you did give input, is it being taken?
I'll say this, when I speak with Melanie Hefner, when I speak with Dave Miller, when I speak with
Mr. McKnight?
Mary Beth Diesel, I don't know that I have as much resistance to, or I guess more correctly, it's not the driver's fault that the student's misbehaving, it's the student's fault, and the correct steps are taken to deal with it. Whereas sometimes at the middle school, we get more resistance to the student actually broke a
Owning
rule,
it.
we should discipline the student, rather than, well, why didn't the driver do X, Y, or Z? It's difficult for a driver that's driving a 38.5 vehicle, 0.5-foot vehicle down the road, dealing with traffic, to see every issue on the bus. So, not to say that there's, that we've had a major problem or anything, it's just that sometimes we think that these students shouldn't be on the bus and they are.
okay. Well, we can, I didn't realize that we were having that issue. We have the standing, monthly status meeting, so perhaps we could go into it further there about what sort of, where you're getting cooperation or not, and we can have a conversation with the appropriate administration. Just make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, make sure the lines of communication are open there, and so I'll make a note of that, and we'll be sure to address it there. Thank you for the feedback.
The biggest thing, I don't know what they do at the middle school, but I know for us, we moved forward with just like a suspension from the bus for a while to see if that'll correct behavior first.
Yeah, yeah,
Scaffold up to they're done with transportation for us.
yeah,
So, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Is it numerous buses, or can you say there's
No, I mean,
more?
obviously, you guys know, I can only assume that the middle school behavior is,
I meant at the high school.
My stuff is mainly bullying accusations, stuff being thrown.
Is it on a certain bus, or is it all spread over the
I
whole
can't say that
fleet?
it is. I don't know. I'd have to talk to Rod because I call him right away to get video, so I can try to watch the video before I even talk to the kids. I want to get a sense of what was going on in that bus before I get any view from them. I usually read the drivers write up whatever they had sent. Sometimes I wish they would write more, just to give me a better. I'm not on the bus, but I will. Before I talk to those students, I want to feel as if though I was as close as I could get to being on that bus, so I know what was going on. Because, ultimately, there could be a suspension, or there's going to be some discipline delivered to them. I want to make sure we're right, ultimately, and that we don't do it right now. So that's kind of what, if I could get two different views, hopefully I can. And I sit in front of my laptop and try to slow-mo and see if I can see hands and throwing things or whatever it is. The audio's been pretty good. The statements that are coming to us, he said, she said this. Usually I can kind of hear it if I slow it down, but you're never going to get a bus full of kids without chaperones, and even then, I don't think you're going to get a bus full of kids to be silent for a ride. So,
Mr. Shibble, I have a question for you. Recently, and I don't remember where I was starting to read about bus safeties, where the kids kind of police themselves to a certain degree on the bus, or you have a go-to person. Is there any, that the administration would have a go-to person and that person has some ownership? Is there some efficacy? I don't remember what the gist of the article was one way or the other. Just wondering if you'd ever considered that. If that's something
I've only been here a short time. I've been in education 12 years now. I would say that as a whole, our group of kids is great, phenomenal. I have kids come to me when stuff is done that is just not right in the grand scheme of, right and wrong. Just to let us know that this happened and it wasn't right. Whether it be kids saying inappropriate stuff to a substitute bus driver because they think they can get away with it. Kids that have nothing to do with the incident are coming to see one of us to let us know this happened. That doesn't happen in every school, that doesn't happen on every bus, but we've had it happen.
Is that something you'd like to look into and bring a proposal for us about having a safety program at the high school?
I don't think that our bus behavior is that bad when you look at how many kids are on routes morning and afternoon, and then how many issues we actually deal with. I think we're low, but I think in order to be able to deal with the ones that we do have effectively, some better views on the cameras might be better. The one I was looking at today was the dash cam, and I couldn't see what I was looking for because it was too low on the dash. So, I was like, all right, I got to say something so that people know.
And what is that rate about of incidences that you think are
That I take care of,
once a week, once a month,
Oh, no. I bet you 9 total for the school year, if I'm lucky.
9 year to date?
Yeah, we don't have many. But like I said, when we get them, I track them down that day. They don't sit on my desk very long. And that's the same with Miss Weber and Mr. Issaman. We all kind of work together when stuff like that comes in.
Okay.
Dwayne and Steve, I think you may have answered, or I may have asked you the same question. If I did, I'm sorry. How many buses do you have cameras on currently?
About 10? I'd say approximately 10.
We have
Contract,
upstairs
obviously.
as
And
well.
all of mine have what I call that Roscoe camera.
The
And
reason-
half of them are all, I must say, all the middle school have the third camera in. At the high school, we haven't had that many issues to deal with, so the older cameras are still in the high school.
Because as you look at this current contract, it's almost like it's reactive in that you're required to have 3 setups. So if he has an instance today, you can react to it and get footage tomorrow, which is too late. But you're saying that you've got that many in place all the time, so that when he calls you this morning, you can say, yeah, I've got footage on that, but obviously not on every bus.
Yeah, like I said, I have mine concentrated on the middle school, because that's where we have all of our problems,
Okay.
or the majority of our
Yeah,
problems.
and
Very
then,
few.
I gotta say, they are good with getting me the footage when they have it. I mean, obviously, they gotta wait till the bus comes back in to get it.
Sure.
So, I mean, I do get it pretty timely for what they have to do to download it off the bus, so.
Okay, well, we can certainly have a discussion about, and we can have that in ongoing RFP discussions about what we really think should be standard on all the buses. If we feel that there should be cameras on all the buses, and once again, you can just adjust the rates accordingly.
Maybe just middle school and high school?
Yeah, I mean, we can,
Do you have some sense of how many high school buses on total? Right offhand or no? Is that, how many
We've got
buses?
11 at the middle school, and I think it's about the same at the high school, so.
Thank you. So we could be talking about 22 total buses that we.
And remember,
Yeah.
they're multi-tiered routes, so if you have them on the high school and middle school, then you have them on the elementary.
right, right.
Okay.
Did you have anything else to,
The last one is, well, there's two. How much training do our drivers and ultimately any staff of the companies have for mandatory reporting? And this came up because an issue came to us that ultimately, the morning that I found out about it, I reported it. And lo and behold, when we got the report, it stated that there was suspicion 2 weeks ago. Staff has to know what falls under mandatory reporting.
Are you talking about my van run?
Yeah. I
Well,
need
we
to
only
report
found
it.
out about that
Well,
that day. News Story were the ones that made us aware that was going on for 2 weeks.
so the driver was not.
The driver was not aware.
Okay, because she wrote that in the report. I suspected it 2 weeks ago.
News Story is the one that told us.
Okay,
They actually do the same child abuse training you do through safe schools. The
okay,
exact same thing, it's a state requirement.
The 3-hour program.
Right, post, Sandusky, whatever. We have the same requirements that teachers have, as far as that goes.
when in doubt, you gotta call that number. Because we lost, time on that being handled. And then the last one is an issue with a parent getting on the bus and shouting a racially motivated term at one of our students. I was made aware of it through the director here at River Rock and the parents of our student that goes here. I still have not received a report about it, but if it's true that the parent was on the bus, my question is, why weren't the police called immediately?
We did. There is a report filed with the Amity Township Police.
Okay,
It was done immediately.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think that parents were aware, that, I don't think that was communicated to the parents. so.
As well as follow-up for the next morning because of the threat that she made.
Okay,
Right.
okay,
The police were at the stop, and then no one got on the bus that day.
okay, okay. Just want to be sure.
okay.
That was it?
All right, well, I don't know if you were aware that we now have a regularly scheduled monthly status meeting. All the principals are invited, but you're more than welcome to come if you are generally you're welcome to come whether you're the liaison or not. But if you've been the primary liaison for any busing issues, then please feel free to come to those meetings so that we can have, we can just make sure the lines of communication are open so we're all on the same page and make sure that we're dealing with any issues that come up appropriately. I think, not everyone, certainly those of us on the committee don't hear about the day-to-day unless someone reaches out to us to ask for guidance or to ask us to get involved. We don't get involved. We don't hear the majority of the issues that come up on a day-to-day basis because we're not, directly involved in day-to-day operations either at the school or obviously with you guys. So,
I would say the majority is positive.
yeah.
You know what I mean? For how many kids we have on buses and
Yeah.
morning and afternoon, I'd say the majority is positive.
Okay.
So,
Right. I was just sharing with you, if you didn't know about the monthly status meeting, that Mr. McKnight does know. Like I said, all the principals are invited. I can add you to the invitation list if you would like to be included.
I'm sure he'll nominate me.
Okay. Okay.
Can I say one thing about the
Yeah, sure.
van incident?
Yeah,
We responded to Shelley, and Shelley was Mikowski.
okay, yeah.
She did come up with an aid for the bus. And then, are you guys aware that we got a call from Mr. Harris directing us to add a van just to haul that child?
I don't think,
That starts tomorrow.
okay, I don't even,
He called directly.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you guys were aware of this. So I wanted to make you aware of it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if there's a change there, you need to let us know.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for taking the time to come down and share your feedback with us. That's
Is it
everything,
a new story route?
that's everything that's on the agenda. Does anybody have anything else that they feel needs to be covered tonight?
I'd like to just make a suggestion.
Yeah, sure, Steve.
I never didn't talk to anybody about this, Wayne or John or anybody, but at the high school, and the crosswalk there has been the way it is since that school opened in 1966. It goes diagonally across the road. Like this, Fifth Street comes out here, the driveway from the high school comes out here. So they put a crosswalk from this corner to this corner. Now that's okay, except the other day I come down there with a bus. I was substituting on a bus. I come down there and their car come up Chestnut Street to turn into the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that cuts pretty close there, and that car, I'm sorry, I was hell-bent on getting between me and the kids walking in that crosswalk. That's a dangerous situation.
And we used to have a guy that used to stand down there and
At one
direct.
point there was
He's
a-
not there this year.
There was a security guard down there.
That's security guard.
Yeah.
I thought they were still sending those paid security guys.
I know.
They don't go out there?
No, they are up at the high school because of the quantity and quality of traffic control up there. The two of them make sure that when the buses are in the front of the school, have one at the lower entrance to make the parents go to the main gym portion.
And he's very
to pick up.
helpful. He is
He is
very
good.
helpful.
Yeah, and then the other one makes sure that no traffic's trying to come from the Gary side of the high school, like back around the buses and then cut out. He kind of blocks them from getting in that way because that whole area kind of fills up with kids when they're leaving to get to their buses. So
Well,
they're out there. What I will say is though, I've had issues across the street with students on their way home. And even though we are not Birdsboro, talking with Birdsboro, they had said if I have issues that they would make themselves available to be up there at dismissal. So I will reach out and have them.
Birdsboro said they
and
would
that's-
come up?
and that's-
He said if he had an officer available, they would come up and just,
Because
sit
part
up
of the
there.
pushback there is that technically is Union and
No,
Penn.
the street. They won't come on to us. They'll be on their side. But just having them there, people drive different.
I mean, I don't know what the cost of it would be, but all they have to do is bring that sidewalk up about 20 feet
Right.
on the other side of the road, and they could have a straight crosswalk across the street instead of diagonally. Maybe the kids would walk straight across the road and take that chance away that they would get hit when you get an impatient person coming in there that can't wait.
Because they don't look before they cross the street.
No, they just
They
walk.
just go.
They're on their cell phones.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And it's a dangerous situation. It always has been, and I'm not sure if you were aware of what
Mr.
goes
Small, do
on
you
there, but with
understand?
that crosswalk
Do you
going
understand the
across.
proposal?
Yeah, I
Because
do.
I don't understand.
Well, we had another situation.
I would like a dollar figure on the proposal,
Yeah,
if
but
at all possible, but I don't understand the proposal.
I'd have to look
I
at
don't
it.
know the layout.
Union
Could you
and
draw it up for us?
Borough come
in any way,
together.
so
Yeah.
we can try to price it?
Well,
What
I've
you're
got
suggesting?
I've got a map up in my office. We'll get together next week. I have to be off tomorrow. But doesn't Union and Birdsboro come together right there?
In the center of Chestnut Street.
Chestnut Street.
Chestnut Street's the divider.
Yeah.
Because we
Where
had
you're
another
talking about is
issue
on the
about
Birdsboro
a
side.
Right.
post for a street sign, and we're trying to determine Birdsboro put a post for welcome to Birdsboro on Union Township's property right there by our driveway. And that's why I had the map out.
All right.
One side of the street.
I think the problem would be solved in the short term by just having somebody there to tell the kids to wait and tell the traffic to go, you know?
Maybe the sidewalk was shortened because that was the end of the Birdsboro.
There may not even been a house there on that corner in 1966.
Probably not.
Probably not. No, I don't think those houses were up there when that school opened.
Yeah, so there's our.
Okay.
If I can interject something.
Yeah, sure.
So what do you say?
My wife works for the borough of Birdsboro.
They're cutting it.
They have, and I've been in municipal government, there is grant programs, and Birdsboro got one a few years ago to do a whole bunch of handicap ramps because the federal government changed the standards of
Yeah,
ramps.
yeah.
I thought it was incredibly dumb. That intersection there does not have handicap accessible ramps. So if you just make this known to Birdsboro, when they go to apply for a grant, they could include this. You know, this is not, you know, there has to be a grant money available.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
It's there from time to time, and with the school board's backing, if you get Uniontown to back it, the grant will move along faster. And that's how you can solve it without you guys laying out any money.
Okay, that's good feedback. And Steve, I appreciate you bringing it up. Yeah, we can certainly look into it and see if we can we can find some solution, whether it be a permanent solution like has been described with actually physically changing the intersection, or if the Birdsboro Police will help, or if we need to pay another security guard to be there in the morning to handle that intersection, whatever. We'll look into it, because, I mean, if you're saying it's a safety issue, then...
Even in the morning when the buses go in, the cars, you know, or even if another bus comes down there and there's kids walking across that crosswalk,
Yeah.
it kind of stops things because you can't get around.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll see if we can come up with some sort
We
of...
have all confidence in our drivers to wait, but we get some impatient people up
Of
there
course.
sometimes, and they don't wait.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you mentioning it, and we'll see what we can do
All right.
to remedy it. Anything else from anyone?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
That we changed the way the buses were lining up to go into AEC. How's that working out? Or we had discussion in committee here?
We have not made any changes yet.
Okay, what's the status? What's going on?
Dane Miller did not want to swap the bus lots. So we are evaluating using a shuttle from each of the two locations, one from MEC and one from AEC, to shorten the bus runs that way instead of flipping the bus lots. So there's discussions ongoing about that, but it's not, we haven't gotten to the point where the details haven't been ironed out to the point that I can bring them here to have them reviewed and okayed. But I am working on it.
They're still doing it the way it's been done?
Yes.
Dangerous.
Well, it's not dangerous. I mean, the current layout isn't dangerous. It was just a time issue. It didn't have anything to do with.
Well,
That's right.
coming
City
down,
efficient.
coming down that one part, you've got 662 that runs this way. You got Weavertown Road that runs this way, and here we are trying to pull out.
Yeah.
So we have to take our bus and make this hard turn
Mhm.
while there's traffic coming down this way, which you don't know if they're gonna turn on Weavertown or if they're gonna go straight. So it's sometimes you got a Hail Mary, you know, to get out there, and then you got the other intersection at Old Airport Road, which some people, when you're cresting the hill, some people try to beat you and they'll pull out right in front of you before you get to Old Airport Road. Whereas if they just let us go out Boone Drive, you just get the Boone Drive, you go on the Rose Cliff, and boom, you're out onto the road.
Which was
you
your
need to be on.
proposal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
don't see what the problem is of switching a lot.
And I like boarding kids in areas that were designed to board kids. I just remember thinking
Well,
that.
yeah.
Well, they are being, I mean, the kids are being
Not
loaded
using
in.
the boarding area, right? At AEC,
Well,
not
no,
using
we
the...
still go into the basketball lots where you can only load like 6 buses at a time, where if we had the other lot, we'd load more buses at a time and then go out the safer route. that we've done for,
I think Dane says he has a staging problem or something.
Yeah, he does.
In the building, with the students.
He
I don't
does.
quite understand it, but.
Well, it had been that way up until what, 2 years ago, 3 years
we
ago?
never had a problem.
Well, we don't want to overreact because he also has an enormous amount of children this year, right?
Yeah.
That should pass.
And-
A lot of
Absolutely.
this is just a gut
Yeah, it clearly,
reaction to the
clearly much of the
temporary-
problem
Yeah.
is the addition of the Birdsboro, of the additional buses because of the Birdsboro
Because we brought
runs, right? So,
Fourth graders are over.
yeah.
He did mention too that there's a staffing issue, and they have the same thing at BEC. They can't they have the room, the space to take the kids in off of the buses, but they don't have the staff to take the kids in off the buses and watch them. And that's kind of Dane's major issue is the timing has to be perfect or they can't.
That situation likely has been remedied because Dane's personnel issue was a function of the fact that the teachers were in status quo because they had no contract, and that no longer applies. So Dane now has much more authority to get personnel available to help with stuff like that because status quo no longer applies. So we're likely in a situation where the existing personnel issues, the problems that were causing there to be personnel issues, I think, are gone.
Okay.
So we should be in better shape with regard to that going forward.
All right.
So I'll confirm that with Dane, but I'm 99% sure that we're now in a position to exert more influence there. So,
Well, if at all possible, I'd like to go with the bus company's recommendation.
well, trust
So
me, I
We can
tried.
do it. Okay.
They were there. and I did not back down. He didn't just say no, and I said, okay. But it was, if you ask Steve or Wayne, they will both tell you that he seemed pretty dead set on not helping out in this regard. So, and I did say, if we can't pull the shuttle situation off to try to rectify the situation, that I will lean harder on him. But we decided that we would try the other solution first. So,
Just a point about the shuttle, if we do end up doing that, one of the concerns was that there wasn't going to be staff when the shuttle shows up.
Exactly.
And 23 bus worth of kids get off, where are we going to, how are we going to get them to those points? If that staffing issue is no longer an issue, that's a good thing.
exactly. Okay, anyone else have any concerns for tonight? All right, thank you very much for attending, and we are adjourned.